Hello, beautiful people. Good morning and welcome to the SEC Media Day. And we're live from Dallas, Texas.
What's on now? Sec now, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And this will last until 5.
Sec now, today 10:10 at 5:01 p on 864 SEC&D. Up. Sec. Up. 5 p.m.
East PJ, Washington's, Arkansas's, Daniel.
Sec startup. 7 p.m.
19.
Sec startup. 7 to 8 p.m. High definition available.
Wings.
Rum Dogs. 8 to 9 p.m. High definition available. Closed captions of upcoming 9 p.m. Sec now. 10 p.m. to 5 at
Will take the mound as the starting pitcher for the National League in the All-Star game. To build my local credibility back in 1991, I was here in
And we're live from Dallas, Texas.
I was with Bobby Williams, who's now the athletics director at Sam Houston State University, and we said, hey, you want to go out to Arlington Stadium? Those of you who are locals will remember Arlington Stadium.
That's Commissioner Greg Sankey, opening address.
Nolan Ryan was pitching that night against the Toronto Blue Jays, and I brought, just to prove my credibility, the ticket from his 7th no-hitter that I attended while I lived here in Dallas, because I spent 11 great years of my career here. Our 2 daughters were born just north of McKinney, Texas. I occupied offices along North Central Expressway when I worked for the Southland Conference, and it's great to be back in Texas representing the 16 universities of the Southeastern Conference, and following a video that began with words like Billy Cannon running, Manning rolling, Manning looking. It was Archie Manning back in 1969 in Legion Field on a game, the first televised Saturday night game we had on ABC. It's Larry Munson yelling for Lindsey Scott. It's a statement that here history runs deep, and then you saw Pat, as in Pat Summitt, and Perry, as in Perry Wallace, and Deuce Gibbons shooting over Duke in the 1978 Final Four, and you heard 3 words: passion, rivalry, family. You saw confetti as you saw
The SEC Football Media Day is between from today until the 18th. It's going to happen between today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, except Friday.
That's the imagery to which we're accustomed in the SEC. And then
This is day 1.
You saw Bevo, and you saw the Sooner Schooner, and you heard from 14 deep to 16 strong. 16 is our today, and 16 is our tomorrow. Those 16 universities.
We're on SEC Network for today, SEC Football Media Days. This is 2024 SEC Kickoff, presented by Regions Bank.
Exceeding $100 billion annually, a number that will continue to grow. And the innovative nature of these universities has caused us in the Southeastern Conference, through the collective campus work, to be the first collegiate athletic conference to convene an artificial intelligence consortium that's already creating research and collaboration and programming partnerships, including a faculty education program about how you manage artificial intelligence in the university learning environment. We've already engaged over 1,000 of our faculty in education around that important topic, a new topic, an emerging topic in which we intend to lead as campuses. We also gather Thursday here at Football Media Days to hear from a panel labeled Artificial Intelligence in Sports panel that takes place, and I encourage you to join in that opportunity. And staying in the technology sector with the changes taking place in college football, I'm pleased to acknowledge that as we explore new ways to use technology in our competitive experience and competitive experiences and to advance the sport of football, we're proud to work with Apple to introduce iPads for sideline use during the upcoming football season to elevate the performance of our student athletes. You know, the college football rule change that's gone into effect this fall permits teams to use this video resource, and the large multi-touch display of an iPad combined with its amazing performance and incredible portability, I know has benefited me on a daily basis, and it makes it the ideal solution for our coaches and student athletes to use in-game video efficiently. The now 16 athletic programs in the SEC last year earned 11 total national championships. The SEC is the only conference to participate in every one of the 14 college football playoffs. For the 18th consecutive year, we led all leagues with the most NFL players drafted at 59. We're excited about this year's College Football Hall of Fame inductees that include Kentucky's Tim Couch, Arkansas's Dan Hampton, Alabama's Antonio Langham, and Texas A&M's Kevin Smith. And we're pleased to celebrate with new member, University of Oklahoma, the induction of Dewey Selman, who's both an Oklahoma legend and the father of Mississippi State University Athletic Director Zach Selman. In the NBA playoffs that I mentioned a moment ago, players who had played on SEC teams were represented in a greater number than any other conference with 49. 1/3 of this year's WNBA All-Star roster are from the SEC. For the 2024 Major League Baseball season, we had 88 players on opening day rosters, and yesterday saw 20 players taken in this year's Major League Baseball draft. You're probably tired of hearing me say it, but those numbers are the most of any conference. For the 25th straight year, we led the nation in football attendance. For the 28th consecutive year, we led the nation in college baseball attendance, having 8 of the top 10 attendance leaders in 2024. Our softball already led the nation in attendance, nearly doubling the next closest conference. The same is true in women's gymnastics. And one of the growth sports for us, women's soccer, led in both average and total attendance during the 2023 season across the country. We're also proud to have finished yet again with another SEC versus SEC College World Series championship final this year. It was Tennessee and Texas A&M, the 6th overall SEC versus SEC baseball final. The 3rd in the past 4 years, but if you adjust our membership, and remember it was Oklahoma and Ole Miss a few years ago, SEC teams have been consistently filling the national championship series. There's a total of 21 times across all sports where a national championship, like women's tennis this year between Georgia and Texas A&M, involved 2 SEC teams. When we look ahead to the Paris Olympic Games, there are a total of 270 Olympians with SEC ties. 85 will populate the Team USA roster. 42 of those U.S. Olympians are returning Olympic competitors, and 43 will be first-time Olympians. And we will have every one of our 16 universities represented on the U.S. Olympic roster. And that roster in U.S. track and field includes 35% of that roster being comprised of representatives from SEC universities. In swimming and diving, it's 37% of that roster. And we will have representatives on all 4 of the U.S. Olympic basketball teams, the men's basketball 5-on-5 team, the women's basketball 5-on-5 team, and the same in both the men's and women's 3-on-3 teams. But let's go back for a moment to our opening video. And while I'd rather talk about all-stars and champions and Olympians, I want to focus on some words you probably missed. We said in that video that was used to celebrate the additions of Oklahoma and Texas as new members just a few weeks ago, that it's time to update. It's time to update your expectations for what college athletics can be. And many of you have written or opined about this being a unique time for college athletics. Time for movement, obviously, and a time of change. And we as leaders are responsible for navigating what really are for us in college sports uncharted waters of change. And we're doing so at a time when the pressures to recruit, to win, to draw people in are just as high as they've ever been. But we've added a set of external factors. The litigation that presses in, state-level legislation, conversations with Congress, and the emergence of the next great idea that is sold or pitched as something that will quickly and fully resolve the issues currently faced in college sports. But the reality is there is no easy button we can just go push to resolve the issues we face. And there's no magic pill. And any time you go through a reset, it is difficult. This past Saturday evening, we were reminded of the stress and divisiveness that's present in our nation, well beyond any playing field. We know that elections are fundamental in these United States of America, and none of us are expected to all agree on how votes should be cast. In fact, probably most of us try to avoid those conversations at family gatherings. We'd rather talk about the weather, talk about how the kids or the grandkids are doing in school, where somebody's going on vacation, or maybe who's going to win the game on the upcoming Saturday. When you attend one of those games on Saturday and you look around, you see Democrats and you see Republicans. You see liberals and conservatives. You see those who work in a white-collar setting and those who work in a blue-collar setting. You see young and old, families and individuals, people from every religious background, every demographic range in this nation. And this sidebar is not about politics. It's actually about what we do on Saturday, that comfortable point of conversation at those family gatherings. These remarks are about the ability of people to come together even when there are differences. And on Saturdays in this country, for decade after decade, people come together. We actually need more of what we do in college sports. And in college sports, and in college football in particular, we know, what, there's an opponent on the field, and spread across a stadium, there's a peril from the opposing teams, one dominant, one in the minority. But in those stadiums, I've stood with sometimes 100,000 or more to sing the national anthem, sometimes thinking that the entire stadium is actually participating. I've joined in those stadiums as you watch maybe a Chinook helicopter fly over, a B-2 bomber, or an F-22. Just amazed. And then celebrated a little bit later in the game when during a break we stop and we bring the flight crew onto the field and celebrate them for their service. I've heard the absolute silence in a crowd of thousands of people revved up and ready to go, who stand for a moment to honor someone we've lost. We actually need more of those unifying moments in this country, and that's why I say again, we need more of what college football does in this nation, not less. We need more of what college sports does, because that unity I talked about and those variances that exist within a crowd aren't just in a football stadium. You see them at baseball games and basketball games and along all of those sports that I cited just a moment ago. In fact, if you drove in on a morning to Hoover, Alabama to our baseball tournament, you would see tents pitched with university logos and colors of a particular fan base. And it's not long before somebody else starts to trickle in. And I can recall this year seeing a South Carolina tent pitched right as I drove in, and underneath there are Vanderbilt fans and Tennessee fans gathered having a conversation. They're actually smiling despite being dressed differently. Under an Auburn tent, Florida fans and Georgia fans gather for those same conversations. That's the reality that we need and the lessons that we can
Well, I
learn
had some
through
fun in
college
watching
sports.
this.